North Carolina government has made plenty of promises to its workers and retirees. Our next guest devotes much of his time to focusing on the price of those promises. Dale Folwell is the elected state treasurer of North Carolina. Welcome back to the program.
Well, thank you for having me, and hello to your listeners.
This is a big issue, isn't it? The price of all of these promises that over the years state government has made to workers for government and the retirees who've left service. Why is this something to focus on?
Well, it's something to focus on because it's not emotional, it's not political, it's mathematical. And it's not just me that's focusing on this. This is Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, who over 7 years ago said the following: the single biggest threat to public education is how states account and fund their unfunded health care and pension obligations to public service workers. So these issues are happening not because I'm the state treasurer, but because this is mathematically where we are. And just very generally, your listeners don't wake up thinking about life expectancies, unfunded liabilities, AAA bond ratings, but all of these things matter when the state is trying to be solvent and trying to fulfill their obligations of health care and pension to public service workers.
Yeah, some people are going to hear the topic and the eyes will glaze over and say, oh, this is something that's that policy wonks or people like the state treasurer need to focus on.
Right.
Why do they need to know that this is something important that has to be addressed?
Well, we always categorize this as why should you care? And the reason you should care is that your listeners get up in the morning thinking about how we're going to best educate our kids, how are we going to protect ourselves from crime, how are we going to pave our roads and all the other core functions of our state government. I can certify to you as the state treasurer that all those things that your listeners wake up thinking about are going to be negatively impacted over the next 20 years based on the tremendous and rising cost of health care and pension obligations coming out of the state budget. And this is something that's going on, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring this to the attention of obviously the policymakers and your listeners, but also to let them know that we're not there at the treasurer's office just to run the public purse. We're there to try to find and fix these problems, and fixing it means putting it on a path to where this is sustainable. The last thing that a school teacher or highway patrolman should be worried about when they leave their house every day is how safe and secure my pension and health care benefit is. We're trying to make sure that we're good stewards of the public purse.
We are chatting with Dale Folwell. He is the state treasurer of North Carolina. Some people who might be following this issue will say, well, I haven't really heard that there's any problem with the pension system or the health care system. I thought our budget in North Carolina was in pretty good shape. Are they wrong?
They are correct. North Carolina has one of 14 states that has a AAA bond rating right now. But the reason we have a AAA bond rating is that because of the conservative policies of the General Assembly, the state budget has been running surpluses for the last several years. We have one of the strongest rainy day trust funds in the United States, one of the strongest unemployment trust funds in the United States so that we could weather the next recession. But these unfunded liabilities total nearly $50 billion. I brought a report here, Mitch, from 39 years ago from former Treasurer Harlan Bowles, who said that these unfunded liabilities, though little understood, will eventually equal, surpass, and then dwarf the amount of debt the state has outstanding. Right now, we have about $5 billion of debt, nearly $50 billion of unfunded liabilities. The pension is one of the best funded in the United States. It's about 90% funded. South Carolina's pension plan's 50% funded. One of the Kentucky systems is 32% funded. But the pension has about a $14 billion unfundedness to it. And the reason is that it has not achieved its assumed rate of return on average for 21 years. But then you go to the health side, and our unfunded health care liability is makes it right behind Illinois. Our state health plan, unlike the pension plan, is only 4% funded. And our liability in relation to the size of our state puts us right behind Illinois, the same Illinois that your listeners have been hearing about, as it being in such a dire situation.
So we've got these situations that are unsustainable going forward.
Mm-hmm.
What do we have to do now to get us on the right path?
Well, what we have to do is it's a military term, but it's called II, and a lot of people have heard that word all their life, but very few know what it means. I means I hear what you've told me, I understand what you're trying to say, and I will do something about that. So on the pension side, what we're trying to do is make sure money's not leaving the plan unnecessarily. And I don't say this in an inelegant way, but the stock market doesn't care what the treasurer's needs are for the pension plan, or any of your listeners. But at the end of the day, what we do is focus on money not leaving the plan when it's not supposed to. Number one is Wall Street fees, which we're on a 4-year run rate right now to cut over $400 million just in Wall Street fees. Secondly, we're making sure we're not sending pension checks to people who's the actual pensioner is deceased. There's somebody who's currently on trial for cashing his deceased mother's pension check for 16 years. And other kinds of things, the felony forfeiture law for people who commit crimes while on public service duties and the like. On the healthcare side, what we're doing is much like the Wall Street side, is we're going to take advantage of our largeness. It's inexplainable that the largest purchaser of healthcare in North Carolina can't purchase healthcare better and more efficiently than anyone else can. And to personalize this, the reason that your listeners should care about this is that for the beginning teacher or the beginning trooper in North Carolina, in order to access the family premium, they have to work 1 week out of the work month. That is unacceptable as the largest purchaser of this product in this state.
You also mentioned, and we have a little bit more time to talk about it, debt as well. So in addition to these unfunded liabilities, North Carolina has a lot of debt. You've been focusing on that as well.
Yeah, we have the Debt Affordability Committee, which I'm the chair of. And the debt affordability study was something that was put into law about 15 years ago. And no pun intended, it was meant to be a governor in the verb sense, so that the treasurer could communicate directly with the governor, who produces a budget, and the General Assembly, who also produces a budget, to let them know what our debt ceilings are and how much ability do we have to borrow debt. And so we've had the Connect NC bonds, the Build NC initiative. So we're wanting to make sure that we manage our debt so that we can afford the interest on the debt in addition to the health care and pension obligations.